Hey everybody, this is Robert People of RobertPeople.com, and you're listening to People's Court. Thanks for joining me today. Today is Thursday, February 21st, 2019, and I'm going to talk today about Empire actor Jussie Smollett. Now by now, we all know what has happened with him. He has been indicted for filing a false report of being attacked. Of course, the story goes like this. I want to say a couple weeks ago, he filed a report saying that late at night he was attacked by a group of white men who shouted out obscenities in line with MAGA, or Make America Great Again, as is the president, Donald Trump's slogan. And of course, later on, now people question that at first. I'm not referring to the ones who are in support of Donald Trump, because they're going to question it anyway, just because it happened. So according to them, no one on the Republican side can do wrong. So I'm not talking about those. But there were some legitimate concerns as far as the legitimacy of these allegations. Well, anyway, we've come to find out according to the Chicago Police Department, that Jussie Smollett did in fact make this story up. What was said was that his reasoning for it was he paid two Nigerian men, of all people. My goodness, why would you do that? I don't know, especially with the theme he was going for. But two Nigerian men, $3,500 to come up with, for this story. I'm not sure if he was actually attacked, if it was makeup he used, or whatever the case is. Who knows? But at this point, it didn't really happen. He was not really attacked. So he has a lot to answer to. His career arguably is very likely going to suffer for this. I don't know about over. Somebody may give him another chance, but right now it's going to be hard to. When you cause this kind of uproar, especially with something like this, especially, when it is time to hold yourself accountable. It's not like he's a white man, so he has a lot more answering to do for something like this than if he was. So that's on him. It's hard to feel sorry for something like that. And what confuses me is we're talking about, and his reason for being attacked, as he told the story, was because of being a gay black man. Now, what's odd to me is the simple fact that this was not necessary. We're not talking about a random person who, if you said they were attacked, people would not believe it. Or if it actually happened, let's say, for example, let's say a white man for racism against him. Now, these days, of course, there's nothing that says a person of color can't be racist toward or another nationality be racist toward a white person. But it's less hard to believe. It's a little bit harder to believe in that case, because it seems to more commonly happen from white to person of color or person of other nationality. So that might take a little convincing. They may have to actually provide a little extra proof, little whatever. If they're the type to want to, if they want to fabricate a story, it would make more sense, not be acceptable, but make more sense in that case, because the initial story would not be believed, obviously. However, we're talking about, again, a gay black man. That's two. Basically, in this country, in our country today, 2019, that's already strike one and strike two. So, people, number one, especially with this administration, blacks are attacked constantly, every day. Physically, yeah, we've gotten to that point. Of course, the president hasn't said a word about any attacks of those natures, other than to call it fake news with his supporters. But it's happening. So we don't really need to make stories up. Things happen every seemingly couple days, it seems like. Every couple days, a week, whatever. Not to mention, let's talk about all the calls from white men and women saying that we're doing things and we're totally innocent. So whatever, that's another story for another time. But that's one thing. Now let's talk about being gay. Now, I don't know. The country as a whole is not accepting of this. It's not necessary. It's absolutely not necessary to make stories up about being attacked. The LGBTQ community is largely, not necessarily the majority. I'm not sure what any numbers are. No polls have recently been done. But it's not widely accepted in this country still. So it isn't like people are running around throwing parties to where saying that, he was physically attacked. If he actually was, or if it really happened, it'd be hard for people to believe. And I'm not talking about those who are in dire support of the president and all he stands for, because of course they'll believe anything that happens that puts them in a bad light. They're not going to believe, evidence or not. Which a lot of folks were saying. That this was made up with no evidence, of course, absolutely none. But because of the fact that this was someone against Donald Trump and his people, of course they're going to say that. The same way he says something's fake news because he doesn't like how it makes him look. But anyway, so you have black, you have gay, people who are still attacked in this day and age. So why do we still need to make something up? Because of his salary? Yeah, that was the reason he gave. I didn't express that before. Because he wasn't happy with his Empire salary. So I'm not sure what it is. The last story I read, which I'm sure there's an updated one out there, but the last one I read was that his salary, as of season 2 of Empire, was $20,000 per episode. 18 episodes, that adds up to $360,000. Yeah, minus taxes and all that good stuff. But that's decent. That's pretty decent, I would say, for an actor, especially on a show like that that's in its 5th season now. Surely he's gotten a raise or two since then. But Empire is a very popular show, very successful. So he's getting exposure. A lot of people are watching. Very popular show. So what that means for him now is probably that he's going to be off the show. At the very least, they're going to find some way to get rid of him, and rightfully so. I mean, again, it's hard to have sympathy for something like this. Now, interestingly enough, let's go someplace else. We see this happen, and I don't believe there are too many people making excuses for the fact that Jussie Smollett did this. People are not coming out here and saying, well, he did it because, well, he should be all right because of this or whatever the case. Of course, those of us who are Christian, religious, who believe in God, we know it's not our jobs to sit here and judge. That's for God to do. And I'm not talking about judging him as in punishing him, because guess what? Not one of us can throw stones. Let's be honest about that. None of us can throw stones at him because of doing this. Yeah, it's disgusting. Yes, it's horrible. But again, God will take care of it. And I mean, in as God does, loving way, to where he can recover in some way over this. Not to the extent of necessarily having an acting career, but that, he gets, things can go on with him. But let's go to other places with this. Some responses to this. Of course, Donald Trump and his supporters are loving this. Donald Trump made a comment about this on Twitter, as he tends to do since he has nothing but time as the president of the United States. So, of course, he said something about this. His supporters all said, yeah, I told you. Yeah, y'all didn't tell us anything. Y'all didn't believe him in the first place with no evidence. Y'all wouldn't have believed him anyway. So someone else decided to throw out there R. Kelly. And which also, ironically, is in Chicago. That whole thing. Now, this person said, they were able to indict Jussie Smollett based on this little bit, but you're talking about 3 videos, a documentary, and with this testimony, and they can't seem to get R. Kelly at all. We know he's paying the police off, but anyway, whatever. That's another one I need to hold. That's another one for another day. But anyway, So we have that. So the police were able to jump on this one real quick. Good. I mean, to be fair, that's how it should be. We can't sit here and make excuses for it. You know, this was a wrong, terrible thing to do, and he should be held accountable for it. So let's just call that what it is. So let's look everywhere else. Now, a lot of folks, especially Trump's supporters, are quick to say things like, this ruins it for the real victims. Let me talk to y'all about that. Because that's sort of that's a laughable expression to me. We're in this place where the real victims are not believed as it is. So let's really look at where we are as a country. Okay. We are not this super progressive country as much as we want to make it seem, especially again, as of 2016, when Donald Trump was elected. Let's just be honest. Let's put our cards on the table. We are not as progressive as we should be. If nothing else, we took some steps back, major steps. So we are far from progressive. So especially when you're talking about blacks in the LGBTQ community, attacks are caught on video. How many times have we seen attacks on video? No editing going on, and someone has to come along and say, oh, this is made up, this is staged, this is all this and all that. On video. Now, of course, with Jussie Smollett, when they weren't able to find video of him, that was the evidence everyone used. But when there was video out, no one wanted to believe it, right? And when it was believable, of course, by then, it was that person's fault for whatever it was they did. It was put on them. But anyway, that's a serious problem. And Jussie Smollett, of course, did not help the cause by doing this, because this is an already existing problem. We are not in a place, let's just be frank about this. We are not in a place where where every attack was being believed. Again, especially from the MAGA supporters. Or, I'm not going to say what other people call them, but the lack of not believing was already happening. So it's not like they were all in this one place where they just believed everything that came out, especially when it paints them in a negative light. Negative light. It already wasn't happening. So all this did was confirm or give them more permission to not believe what they already weren't believing. When their leader, and yes, I said their leader, calls things fake news because he doesn't like it. Zero evidence that the news is inaccurate, because that's actually the word you use, inaccurate, not fake. You're not a 12-year-old little kid, Donald Trump. But when that's what they follow, they were calling things fake news even before this happened. So all this does is this is going to just encourage them to continue doing it. Something happens, and what are they going to say? Oh, well, we know what happened with Jussie Smollett, right? Well, we can't believe this one. And those out there who largely are part of the Donald Trump clan, and no, I didn't say that by accident. I meant to say that. This gave them a free pass to say, okay, we're going to do it straight up. Because guess what? The ignorant and the gullible will not believe it because of what just happened with Jussie Smollett. That's it. No matter how much evidence actually exists for Jussie Smollett to do this, that gave them a pass to say, you know what? We're cool now. We can do it. We don't have to worry about getting caught up. None of that. Because after all, everybody is not going to believe it. And people are watching this. People are paying attention to this. While Jussie Smollett really hurt himself and the LGBTQ community and the black community, make no mistake, he really damaged any progress we thought we were making, especially as far as being attacked. But let's not pretend that we were in a good place to begin with. And that's where I'm going to leave you. Robert People of RobertPeople.com. Thanks for listening. Have a good night.